Are you testing creatives efficiently or just wasting money on stuff that will never scale? I'm able to generate thousands of dollars of revenue in my accounts whilst barely losing any money on creative testing. And whenever I do find a creative that is a winner, it is always scalable. How is that possible? Well, in today's video, I'm going to explain how most people are getting creative testing wrong and what I suggest you do instead. So let's get into it. For years, the standard industry method of testing is to allocate 10 to 20% of your account budget to separate testing campaigns. So let's say you're spending $900 a day and you have a 10% testing allocation. To keep it simple, you're going to have one campaign with a daily budget of $900, and you're then going to have either a second campaign or multiple campaigns adding up to a total of $100 a day daily budget for the purposes of testing new creatives. So you launch these tests and maybe your test goes well. You've found something that is a winner and you're going to do one of two things. Either you're going to move that winning creative into your scaled up $900 a day campaign, or you're just going to start increasing the budget on your original test campaign and scale up that campaign, okay, over the next coming days, coming weeks. But if you do this, you maybe find either one of two situations arises. Either the ad that you put into the scaling campaign just doesn't take any spend, or the campaign that you've scaled up significantly eventually dies off and no longer performs. Your creative doesn't scale. But if you do one of these, you may find one of the following situations occurs. Either that winning creative from your test that you put into the $900 a day scaled campaign doesn't take any spend and you have to put it somewhere else. Or if you did significantly scale up the original test campaign, maybe the results drop off once you've reached a much larger scale and you never get anywhere near to that point of the $900 a day campaign. Sound familiar? Well, the reason for both is the creative that you have found to work in testing was never scalable. It worked on a small budget because the algorithm is going to go over the low-hanging fruit, the warmest people who are very aware. But whenever you move that creative to the $900 a day campaign, it has a mix of people who are very aware and less aware. People at different stages in their buyer journey. And equally, that campaign that you tried to scale up from the initial low budget, the testing campaign, well, it was hitting that very warm, very aware audience too. And now that you've scaled it up, Meta has to branch out because it's used all those people and find less aware people. But again, that creative was never intended for people who are less aware. It worked on people who are very aware. That's where it became the winner. So in both situations, your creative has to be able to resonate with people who are very aware and people who are less aware. But if we're just testing in a small budget, we're only testing on those people who are very aware. And I have a video that goes into this into detail and explains, what is happening here. But the point is, if you're testing creatives this way, you're testing the creatives in the wrong testing environment. Now, before anyone says anything, there will be some situations where you test a creative in a low budget, you move it to your $900 a day campaign, or you scale up the original campaign, and that creative is scalable. But whether that winning creative was scalable or not comes purely down to luck. And if you're leaving things up to luck, you're essentially gambling with your budget or the budget of your clients. And yes, I know the whole reason why we set aside that 10% budget allocation for testing is because that's the small enough portion where it's not going to affect our overall account performance. And that is true. And if you're going to lose a bit of money each week in the pursuit of finding something that could massively take your account to the next level and earn you a lot more money in the future than that ever was, then it's a worthy investment. But when you combine all those weeks of small losses up over, say, 3 months, 6 months, a year, that starts to add up to quite a lot of money. And that's money that you didn't need to lose if you had your testing set up in a more efficient way. And that's money that you could use for something else, new creatives, something else in the business, okay? So what should you do instead? Well, you should test your creatives in the campaign that you eventually want them to run in, because that is the exact environment where your creatives have to run, and it is targeting the exact people, the very aware and the less aware people, that your current account scale is hitting, okay? And don't worry about the budget being so large in that campaign, that $900 a day budget, because Meta have a very complex and intelligent algorithm that is only going to spend money on creatives that it sees are going to do well in terms of generating sales or generating engagement. And conversely, if it does find one of those creatives that's very good at doing that, it has the full freedom to take as much money as possible from that overall budget and funnel it into that creative and take your account on, your performance on massively in a very short period of time without you having to gradually scale it up over time. But there is pushback on this, and what I'll hear from peers is that they don't like this because it is unstable. They don't have control over where that budget is going to go, and that leads them up to risk. And I'd say they're not unjustified in their concerns. If you find a creative that is very good at generating engagement, but not necessarily good at generating sales, which is what you want as the business, then you are opening yourself up to risk that is going to take all this money and spend it on something that is not generating you sales. But what you should have is you should have automated rules in place to have yourself like a stop loss, a fail safe that, if your campaign's not generating the results you need, it's going to be turned off to mitigate that risk. But I would also equally argue that, well, that money is not wasted, because you're getting eyeballs, you're getting relevant eyeballs on your website, on your brand with that creative. But more importantly, you've taken massive learnings from it. You've found something that, hey, works in our current account scale, is taking a massive amount of budget away. So Meta like it, the people like it, but it's just not converting to sales how we would want in its current form. So how can we take those learnings and how can we either iterate on that ad or draw those learnings into another ad, implement them and iterate that ad so that you have an ad that now has that engagement power, something that Meta likes, as well as something that you like, an ability to convert to sales. Anyway, that's the video, guys. Just a quick one today. If you found it valuable, there's plenty more that comes from, so give me a follow and get ready for the next one. And equally, if you're struggling with your accounts or you just want to go over some strategy, then you can always book a consultation call with me. The link is in the description. And yeah, other than that, I will see you in another video very, very soon.